Well, boa noite, Munson here with the Expat Man Cave. And if you were looking for football, you can catch that preview or review and preview with Michael and Richard on our YouTube channel. They've been pre-recording those because I think they didn't plan it very well. They basically planned to be here between 9 and 10 on a Friday night. And obviously that's when matches are being played. So they started pre-recording those. And very good they are too, I have to say. But here tonight for you from 10 o'clock. Here on Portuguese and British time in Portugal, Senor Milhares and Senor Milhares. Oh, that's what I said.
Say with me.
Me.
Yeah.
Zish. Milhares. There you go. Easy. Hold on a minute. You've got something on your shoulder there, mister. And I've always thought that you like to cockatoo. Oh, just a little bit too late. I'll say it again. We've always suspected that Joel liked to cockatoo, right? Yes. Okay. All right. Garvo, you're looking very serious. What go on?
I'm trying a couple of experiments, so forgive me if I'm clicking away on something. I'm just trying a few different things.
Don't worry, the men are piling in. Look, David's here as well.
Good evening, gents.
Good evening. Getting in quite early to cause trouble tonight. Let's have a nice, soberly black background. Yes, sorry, and Andrew, how are you this evening? Andy Handel.
I'm very well, good sir. Thank you for asking. I had a leaving do at work this afternoon, so I've got a bit of a jump start on some of you guys, I'm sure.
Oh, right. Okay. And is that why you're in a travel lodge as well?
Why do people think my IKEA wardrobe looks like a travel lodge?
I think Lenny Henry's going to jump out any minute.
Oh, well, there would be something, wouldn't it? So.
It would. What is Garvo up to? That looks pretty special, doesn't it? A stage set.
Carl, I meant to ask you. When I've watched this back, because I wanted to check on how my recording and the audio, it's really like the microphone is like a cam mic all in one up here on my screen. Yeah. But you've got that studio mic. Yes. And your voice is really probably a lot better broadcasted. What make is that?
It's a beautiful Rode, R-O-D-E, if I make it geeky.
Yeah, I usually use the one's favorite for YouTubers.
Yeah. This is good.
I just looked at a Rode.
Only the mic from the web.
I just looked at a Rode NT mic and it says for like streaming and casting and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the one I had was for gaming and it broke. So it's in the corner. I don't know what to do with it, even if I dispose it or try to fix it.
I
see. Dave's got the mic headset, and I know those are really good. Those little Lavalier mics as well.
Yep. He's got a little light on it as well, doesn't he?
Just the mute button.
Just to remind him that it's on or off.
Dave, have you got the voice changing software? Can you turn yourself into like a Dalek or
like a mixer or something? No, I don't have anything like that. Or maybe I do and I don't know it.
I've got a range of effects.
There you go.
Awesome. So, it's on my next Amazon purchase is to buy a boom arm and a mic.
Well, Rode do a good boom arm that's fairly cheap, I think. I think it's about 40 quid.
Amazon sell a combo deal with like mic and pop filter and arm.
Yeah.
And I thought if I buy it here, because when I've tried to use Amazon Spain for bringing stuff, sorry.
Yeah.
I need to tell you, sorry, I'm going to just mute.
Sure.
Room service. Garvo, what is going on? It looks like you've gone multicam, says Kent, who's here tonight. He has gone multicam. It does look like a quiz show or so. What are you doing, Gary?
Hang on, boys.
He's going to add another camera.
I'm just trying to get two camera angles on it. So,
are you doing that? What interesting?
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't hear me now.
Long shot, and yes, this is very good. So Kent, good evening to you, right, gentleman from Kent in the States. and the Nubianette. Will there be tears or tears? That could be as well, couldn't it? Will there be tears as well as tears tonight, or laughter? Yes, after last week, I mean, I should perhaps begin by apologising. And actually, I haven't put it's a good job. I'm reminded by, Garvo's gone completely. He was on twice and now he's not here at all. So, yes, last week, there was an exceptional level of swearing. And here's the man who was, at some points, the object of that swearing. And I need to check with him if he's okay. I did get an apology from Eugene the day after, who may or may not be watching, and I will share with you certainly the spirit of his apology. And well, basically, he said sorry, and that I mean, and we might want to talk about this tonight. That age-old excuse. I'm sorry, I was terribly drunk at the time, and he's banned himself. And in many ways, I thought it should be. Did he apologise to you, Andy? Did you get a message from Eugene, or are you not in touch with him?
I'm not in touch with him. I'm sure he could have found me if he wanted. But I mean, look, we've all lost it a little bit when we're drunk. Although, having said that, everyone says, well, if you can't take your drink, don't drink it. So there are a number of answers to that. I'm a fairly easygoing guy. I give because I get most of the time, and but I did think it was a bit over the top.
Yeah, it went from sort of caricature Eugene that we know and that is quite funny into a slightly awkward space, didn't it? So I do apologise to anyone who was upset by that, and to you, Andy. I did my best to moderate it and walk a line of seeing the funny side and then thinking, hold on, he needs to be muted. And then I think he got rid of himself in the end. And as I said last week, I was very impressed with your partner, Leona, who had the foresight to suggest that it wasn't even worth being involved in. And she was
very angry. She was exceptionally angry. And so was Sandra, my friend from Birmingham. But, I love it.
Well, thank you for taking a big man approach to it, and just to sort of touch upon that awkwardness of last week. He's decided to self-censor and said he was boozed up and he's not in a good place, and that's pretty obvious, isn't it? I think we could gather that he went to the darker side of his usual dark self. So I mean, and I said to him, I didn't say we still love you. I mean, it's like, this is a place that should be able to hold that as well, I would like to think. And he has apologised and he's welcome back. He doesn't need to, but, because that's part of that drama in a way, isn't it? I'm a terrible person. I'll never darken your door again. I'm not really into that. I'd much rather he come back and talk about it. If you are watching and you want to, this is an incredible, it's like a David Copperfield music show suddenly, isn't it? What's going to happen? Is a bird going to turn into a woman in a big sort of feather? Joel's going to turn into a woman. Let's see what happens.
No, nothing like that.
The magic trick.
Wings a little bit.
So Garvo, you're gone, Andrew. How was that call? What happened? Was that everything okay there?
It's funny you should say that. I was just going to say about the call. And it's probably slightly relatable to tonight's topic, which is men, alcohol, and apologies.
Yes.
And it might stimulate some juicy conversation, not only from my fellow man, but also from our fellow ladies tuning tonight, including my beautiful wife, who's just said good night, honey.
Hello, honey. It's not appropriate for us all to call her that, is it? Good evening to you, Margarita. Might be a better way of addressing her this evening. Stephen's here as well. Joel has some bird nibbling his ear. It's true. And Stephen Wells, you're welcome on screen. I put the link in again if anybody wants it. But Andrew, good source of conversation. That to go back to particular personal owning of things, or to describe the phenomenon of the stupidity of drunk people?
Well, let's just come to that bridge when we come to it. Also, I was just saying before the phone call, when I've tried to use Amazon Spain, I bought stuff, it never arrived, and they've had to refund me. So the reason I'm asking about your mic was I'm going to buy one and bring it over to Portugal when I come in 9 days.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to talk to you about the sort of kit that you might, if you want any advice on that, fair enough. I think David is heavily breathing on his. He's a top for a bit of heavy breathing, because I am hearing, and I think the ASMR community will love it. Yeah, that's. And do you want to do a little bit of? Well, we're about it.
Tipping beer.
There we go. We're suddenly a sensation elsewhere in the YouTube community with that sort of behaviour.
This is value you can't find anywhere else.
Exactly. Yeah. Unique.
Well, that's a big cat.
A unique offering. It's a big cat.
Trying to get him to growl. Oh.
He does look, as we say in the UK, he does look like a little bit of a jippy bastard.
Yeah, he's not a good dog at all.
Okay, all right. He shouldn't have to hear that though, should he? Because I'm sure he can feel that.
He doesn't really know what I'm saying, and he has a good life, so he's fine.
All right. Did I hear alcohol? That's an interesting question, isn't it? If it's a bit like a tree falling over in the forest. If there's no one there to drink it, can you hear it, kind of thing? I don't know. Is that what you meant, Charles? Tell us more. Joel has got the full pirate.
I think it's that time Charles got his arse up on the screen again, and we haven't seen him for ages, instead of the slow comments.
Yes, and you mean that sort of figuratively rather than literally. We don't want to see your arse.
Whichever. Anything's better than nothing, I suppose.
Okay, we'll take one. Andrew and Margarita. I mean, I don't need to say get a room, because obviously you've got one there behind you, Andrew. But this is unseemly behaviour going on here. What's it going to escalate to? Meo amor. Very nice. Okay, so what else might we discuss tonight? I mean, I've got an offering. I bought this book when I was a miserable young man many years ago, and I've changed a little bit, I'd like to think, since then. I want to ask the question of you.
Did you read it?
Yeah, very funny guy. I'm really pissed off now. Yes, very funny, very good. Is it possible to live without unhappiness and moods? Is a question I would like to ask you, gentlemen, this evening, as one possible philosophical inquiry. Booze only warms up what's already there. That is quite an interesting way of looking at it. It's an amplifier, isn't it? It's a magnifier. Lend it to Joel. Okay, Joel. It's which way does this go? No, other way. There you go, mate. Let me know what you think.
Let me read the title first.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty good being unhappy. Thank you.
I'm good.
He's happy with his unhappiness.
There you go. Isn't that the human condition in one little exchange there? Amazing. All right. Yeah. Here's a man who I know talks about happiness. Happiness, the greatest gift that he possesses. Hello, good evening to you, Stephen.
Good evening.
Got your own theme tune. How are you?
Yeah, doing good.
Okay, excellent. Do you think it's possible for men to live without unhappiness and moods?
So a good question. It's, for me, no. If you're whatever level of happy you are, if you don't have a level of something below that, you don't recognise. I don't recognise how happy I am at that point.
Oh, I see. So the relative.
It's for me, it is a scale of something, and if it is monotone, there's nothing there. It gets very empty for me.
Interesting.
Yeah, light isn't light without the dark, and
all that stuff.
Yeah,
very good. An excellent start to the evening. John Rooney's here, the man behind the idea of keeping up with the Kardashians. For those of us who live in Caldash, keeping up with Kardashians. Bonjour, mon amis. And you might want to try that in Portuguese, John. Consider, really. But and you're welcome to join us on the screen because John had some serious questions about Portugal, actually. Like, could you buy the gas refill for a certain kind of keg? And can you buy cheesy Wotsits? So we'll do our best to answer those questions tonight, John, if you want to put them in the comments in the chat. And we'll also bring you on screen if you want to talk about Portugal. Because I think you're a little bit of a newbie, aren't you? And a bit of a process there, moving from the UK to Portugal. So very welcome on screen.
We get cheesy Wotsits.
But they're not cheesy. They're not the cheesy Wotsits of old, are they? Aren't they Cheetos or something like that instead?
Oh, yeah.
You'll probably get some cream for that as well, Andy.
Yeah, probably.
It's the humidity, isn't it, that causes a cheesy Wotsit?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so there you go, John. Hope that helps. Probably not.
That's why there's so many B-days in Portugal.
The mystery is solved. Thank you very much, Joel, considering that for a moment. Still considering that. Holly, oh, look at the many faces of Joel. And I've been told not to mess with your brand, Joel, with all this talk of ridding yourself of unhappiness.
It's not the brand.
Easy Wotsits.
I can be a moody bastard at the flip of a switch, but never while drinking. I'm chatty and happy when drinking. One of those happy drunks. That's another subset.
Yeah, about that. I'm really the opposite. I want to go to the bathroom and shit all over.
Oh.
That is my whole experience of being drunk, and I don't want to repeat it.
Thank you for sharing. It's not what
the. Always good talk about shit in the middle of a conversation.
Well, I'm sure that's not what the cafe owner says to you. Thank you for sharing. But I don't know.
I can refer you to my colonoscopist if you want.
There's a topic of conversation. Come on, Doc. I was hoping you'd mention it. How did it go? The probing that you underwent earlier this week. Tell us all about it.
His eyes are looking brighter.
It was wonderful.
You took the smile off his face for 2 days.
No, hold on. I will explain what happened. So I turn up at the clinic. They show me into a room with a bit like a hospital four-bed ward bay with curtains. So they say you undress, put these disposable shorts on back to front, so we can get the appropriate part of your anatomy. And then they took me into the anaesthetic room before the operating theatre. And they put this canner in my arm beforehand. She puts the syringe in my wrist. She puts the syringe into the cannula. She said it might sting a bit. The next thing I knew was I was waking up. All done. Lovely. Diazepam, intravenous. Recommend it highly.
So you weren't able to enjoy. You weren't able to enjoy it and see what was going on.
No, couldn't see it on the screen. Nothing like that.
Didn't they give you the DVD of it?
I got a few pictures.
Oh, okay. A token.
Pictures, thank you.
Yeah, I'll sell them if you like.
No. Maybe to Frank.
Wow. Okay, but really pleased to hear that it went well. I mean, not that it went well, but you know what I mean. The result was good, and you've got the all clear, haven't you?
Yeah, it was never about cancer. It's about it was a screening thing because it's from a familial condition. So yeah, but it was good to know that they didn't find anything to worry about.
He said, "You're fine, sir." He said, "We've just found this golf ball for some reason."
You got a big thumbs up then, did you?
Yeah,
massive.
I don't want to suffer like my father suffered. He was doing a prostate exam, and they send a probe down the front little hole.
Oh no!
And that is painful.
Yeah, nice.
And I don't want to be on his situation when he was there.
No.
Well, it can't be any worse. It can't be any worse than having your hemorrhoids done. So if anybody has ever gone into that
Maybe kidney
situation,
stone.
think very carefully before you have it done.
Are you speaking
What
from
does that
personal
mean?
experience?
Oh yes,
Can I probe? Okay.
you can probe on what everybody else says. So
What does that mean? Have it done?
Yes, exactly.
well, if you've got hemorrhoids, it's a balance of like how bad are they and how much trouble they're causing you. Because I can tell you with absolute certainty, the operation is grim, and the aftermath is very grim. And really, I kind of was glad that I didn't do any research on the operation before I had it. I did it afterwards, and then I thought, oh my God, oh my Lord, this has happened to me.
So
They've used that machine. You know that machine that dug the Channel Tunnel?
yes, with the spinning teeth.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
Really? It wasn't the actual one they used for the Channel Tunnel, though, was it?
No, probably scaled down version.
The French doctor with his Channel Tunnel kit.
You feel the English big dog.
Directional drilling.
Oh my
No, the aftermath is bad. It's bad. I felt like I'd had my intestines drawn out and kicked around a football pitch for a couple of weeks.
Really?
But you're better now.
Well, I suppose that was.
Oh yeah, that was ages ago.
Yeah, and it hasn't come back, so that's good.
Hopefully, touching wood.
Do you change your diet?
It's the first time you've got to go to the loo. That's what you fear the most.
Why is it that, Andy can ask this, why is it in medicine they're very keen for you after anything that you can wee or poo? This is a thing, isn't it? A medical proof or something.
Well, yes, the point is, if they let you go home in retention, then it's not going to be good when you finally put the courage up to go back. And so they will ensure that you're passing whatever it is you might not be passing. If things have gone wrong, they make sure that it's working before you leave the hospital.
Oh, okay.
That's all it is.
Now, David,
Victoria, if you have information, put your fingers in your ears.
But I think David is especially interested in this. Is this an issue for you, David? Or maybe call you
hemorrhoids?
Yeah.
Or what? Oh, not really, but I'm a human being, so
it's possible.
It can happen to me, of course.
Live long enough, you'll get them.
You see, I thought I was being vulnerable there. Wow. I thought I was being there, exposing myself to the world and my vulnerabilities. Follow the thread.
It is related to your diet, right?
Yes and no. Yes and no.
I did hear a proctology joke, though, if you want to hear it.
Go on in.
Proctology nurse was reaching into a pocket for a pen. She found a rectal thermometer. She's like, great, some arsehole's got my pen.
Very good. Gary, you were going to say it's not necessarily diet. I mean, did you sit on too many stone walls or something like that?
No, it can. If you've done a lot of heavy lifting and that sort of stuff, that can cause well.
Yeah.
With your
when you've had to do some of the jobs I've had to, it's no wonder I got them. So yeah.
It's all about raised intra-abdominal pressure. So
there you go.
Of course.
And that as well,
yeah. From whatever means.
Then again, when we go to the toilet, our natural position isn't sitting, is squatting. So
absolutely. Well said. Well said. Not doing ourselves any favors. So multiple colonoscopies, hopefully not all at the same time, Victoria. No biggie. Dear old. So I'm sorry to hear that. And yeah, I guess you're being preventative there.
Yeah.
And
good idea.
And good to hear, Victoria, that you find it no big deal. And of course, at that point, I think men tend to doff their caps towards the women who have higher pain thresholds, right? It might be something to do with that. I don't know. Or is that a sexist nonsense?
Yeah, sexist nonsense. Victoria, do you enjoy the diazepam? That's the question.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so can I book another one next week, please? Is that what you said, Doc?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Eric's. Where is he tonight? Stuck at a late running appointment. Should we guess what it is?
Hope
to be home. Colonoscopy, of course. Hope to be home before the show ends. Have fun.
Don't you bloody hurry up. Come on.
It's fine golf, isn't it?
Important things here.
Don't worry about the diazepam. Just pop it in there and let's get cracking here. Maybe. Hola, boa noite. No, it's a bon noches. Amount to programa. What does that mean, do we think?
Hola, boa noches. Amount to programa. No idea. Something about your program.
It's
good
a
night.
little bit of Spanish with Portuguese, and honestly, even I don't understand it.
Yeah,
that's it. Screwed then.
It just
What
shouldn't
was
happen.
that weird language? Esperanto. Are you sure it's not Esperanto?
That must have been a lefty project though. Esperanto, mustn't it? Doc?
Well, I'm puzzled because the name is Fiona and Simon. Is it one or the other? Fiona and Simon White and Simon White, both of them together.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
it's a N as in and.
Yeah,
I think.
But I mean, it's all over the place, isn't it? Really, it's one of those ones that leaves you
like they really need to get a grip there, and I think it's two rights have made a wrong there. See what I did?
Yeah, it can be Google Translate in English.
Okay, so I'm thinking Simon possibly there. Good evening to you, Simon. Let us know what you were saying there. After childbirth,
yeah,
that
problem too.
Yeah, the old Chalfont St. Giles, Farmer Giles, Chalfont St. Giles. Yep. I guess there's
Nobby
no good. Nobby Styles. Yes, very good, everybody. Grapes of Wrath. Hola, buenas noches. Carl Tequero Amot. Oh, so and that was a compliment that we were rather.
Yeah, probably trying to say that he enjoys the show.
Yeah, it says, hello, good evening, Carl. I love your program. I love your program. It is Spanish, isn't it?
Mainly in Spanish there, which I mean, we've got to say this, Simon. In Portugal, that can cause massive offence. I mean, if you look at no, I thought the veins would be standing up on the sides of your head there.
See you in Algibarota.
It's a little bit of a mix of Portuguese and Spanish, so it's the person trying to communicate with us.
Is that what? Sorry, Joe. You're a long way from your microphone. I think possibly. Yeah, is that what people say instead of Agincourt? It's all about Algibarota, maybe over here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bonite from Algibarota. Bonite from Mark Stoll. Hello, Mark. Good to hear from you. Not paying thresholds, says Victoria. More so watching all the procedures and so you wanted to make sure you're doing the right thing there. Sounds like your dad had a terrible time there, Victoria. Colonoscopy is nothing by comparison. Yikes. Honeymoon Always is here as well. I love that name. Joining from Lisbon for the first time, and this is the unless there is going to be new management, like a new bar owner taking over the man cave. This is our what is it when it's the third last? It's like the pre-penultimate, isn't it? So we've got three more, and you're in kind of late in our trajectory, Honeymoon Always, but there's two more after this one. If you do want to come back after watching this one, Victoria, changing the mood. What's everybody drinking? So what you got, fellas?
Superbox.
I already drank mine, so
Sempre. Superbox Sempre.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
My bottle is downstairs, but it's St. Austell's Proper Job.
Proper Job. And what you put there, Gary?
6.8.
6.8 in the Argus there. And I found this Sagres Mini Cascade, and it's the strangest. That's a hoppy logo, and it's also dated 2019, I think. So I'm really taking my life in my hands with this one. So we'll see what happens with that.
Check the date.
There are plenty of wines you can drink with over 50 years old, and you don't have any issues. Should
be okay then. Now this is a good question, Charles. Where is Frank? What's going on with that guy? That's quite a good theory. The Frank variant, the Persian variant, maybe.
Yeah, the Persian. You can't say that, but it's a Persian variant.
You can't say it. Can we come up with a funny one like the shark tooth variant? That's good. So as well as like the Vindaflu, it really bites you on the arse. Nice one, Stephen. There's been like Kung Flu, Vinda Flu. We've got to come up with a Persian one, haven't we? I think. As in, we're not being racist. We are going with that convention there. And obviously, when anyone says we're not being racist, they clearly are.
Clearly are, yes.
Yes, okay. Victoria Benson.
Dig.
Yes, you can hear the earth flying. What is happening to the man cave? It's a good question. What is happening, guys, to the man cave? What happened to her? We used to be cool. Oh, she doesn't mean that as a general existential inquiry. She means in 3 weeks' time, I think.
Yeah, I think so. That's what she's asking.
Okay. John Rooney having a bit of ginger. So where are you, John? Are you actually in Portugal? Or is that like a bit of duty-free taken back to the UK with your Obidos ginger there? Argosh, says Victoria. Joe should be drinking with his bird. Argosh. Pirate Joe? No? Okay.
Cockatiel is not a pirate bird. Cockatoo, maybe. Cockatiel, no.
Okay, point of order on the fancy birds there. Joel, did you know what?
Besides, I don't know how to speak piratish.
Yes, and I might be ill. Nubianet is suggesting by drinking 2019 beer. Columbophobia. Columbophilia. Does anyone know what that is?
I heard that the other day. What was that?
Columbia.
What was that? I heard that the other day.
Columbophilia. I'll give you a clue. It was on the
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to think what it was. What were we talking about?
Yeah, it's that thing of racing pigeons.
My wife loves your show.
One more thing. Okay, it's not love of TV detective shows from the 70s. Nope. Has anyone got it yet? Did I hear anyone say it?
I can't remember.
Repeat it again. It's Columbophilia.
No, you can't Google it. You can't Google it, Andrew. Bloody teacher.
No, I'm not. No typing.
Put your hands where we can see them.
Oh,
yeah. It might have an incredibly clever penis.
It's possible.
Hold on.
Okay. It's sorry, your search has been disallowed. I'll give you a clue. It's the second most popular sport in Portugal.
And it's Columbophilia?
I'll say it in a more slowly way so you can understand. Columbophilia.
There we go. Look, Kent's got it right. Yeah, and your missus knows what it is, Andy.
I've never heard of it.
Here she is. She's got the answer.
Yeah.
Pigeons, of course.
Pigeons.
Yes,
it's pigeon stuff.
Yeah, no, it's basically a competition with pigeons where you release, for example, in the north of the country or another country and see what time does the pigeon take to arrive.
Oh, racing pigeons.
Racing pigeons. Well, they're going to have bloody posh names from I don't know.
Or not as it seems. Bye.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Have a nice time in Spain.
Imagine the Yorkshire racing pigeon fanciers go, oh, I'm off to satisfy my Columbophilia.
I really fancy her.
Yeah, you send a truck or whatever into somewhere in Europe, then release the pigeons and wait for them to come back home. And see the time they took.
Is somebody practicing the accordion there?
Sorry,
somebody's taken up the accordion, as it were. It's just the way they walk. John. From Obidos. Oh, back in the UK, unfortunately. Back in September to Usera. Is that right? Is that where you're going to be? In the USS area? Sounds like where all the Russians live in Portugal, maybe. USS area there. Is that right? Or is that a typo, John? Interested to know. Charles Mitchell says Mike Tyson is into the pigeon racing. I mean, you're not going to laugh at that, are you? Not to his face, anyway.
He had a tiger as well. Let's be honest.
Well, that would put the cat among the pigeons, wouldn't it?
Yes. Oh, very good.
Thank you very much. Okay,
it's not bad for this time of night, I suppose.
It's it's a 2019 beer. If I have to rush out the room at some point, you'll know why.
Yeah, Carl, check the sell-by date first.
I'm actually going to go and get some more and to see what happens. Doc, the hospital have been in touch and they found this as well. If you want it back, they want to know. They want to know.
I lost that in 1973.
Isn't it amazing what they could do these days? Incredible.
Kellogg's 1973. Kellogg's 1973.
All right. So what else? Are we going to settle into some discussion here, or are we just skirting around like we did?
Okay.
Well, how long did it take us to talk about vulnerability last?
Quite a while.
Yeah. Well, if you want, I can kick off with this thing where the thumbnail for this meeting was men, alcohol, and apologies. But I want to kind of morph that into also men, women, alcohol, and apologies.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was at this leaving do this afternoon, and we left the office at 1:30, and some of my female colleagues were getting sort of ready for a night out, and it transpires one of my former colleagues who'd left was going to turn up and come to this do, and one of my female colleagues was very excited about this matter, but the guy who left is happily married with a family, but it didn't seem to put her off the attempt. Let's put it this way. And the more she drank, the more she threw herself at him, and the poor guy had to basically make his excuses and leave.
That's it.
Bloody women, eh?
I want to throw this out there because obviously we're of a certain age that we're very happy and content in our lives. But as younger guys, when you were maybe more footloose and fancy free, what would have been your kind of reaction to a young lady throwing herself at you? And also, isn't it against some sort of woman code to kind of want to taste the forbidden fruit?
It's against the man code, I would say.
Well, I mean, there's a bro code, of course. When you're young, there's certainly that.
Yeah, but who follows the bro code?
Yeah, I've taken some great sort of conceited and arrogant pleasure in saying definitely no, and I think it's the right thing to do. But I've enjoyed virtue signalling as I'm doing about it now as well. All the others didn't. All the others didn't say no, I think.
Yeah,
went really quiet then.
From our female viewers,
it's like tumbleweed crossing the view screen.
It'd be interesting to hear if the female viewers if there is a kind of woman code of you shouldn't kind of look to play with a married man.
As happened in the UK, notably with the health secretary.
Yeah.
Yes. How on earth is he getting
Allegedly.
away with it?
I mean, these things are a joint responsibility, aren't they? I mean, I don't think it should be the responsibility of a gender to take care of these things.
No. You know how, like I said, it's you would typically think that men would be more cheaty maybe than women. Men have this kind of inbuilt desire to conquest and kind of procreate, I guess. But are women as equally as kind of guilty of the same label?
I have my theories. Who else has
it's difficult to answer that because we all operate within very strongly enforced and trained social constructs. So for a woman to break out of that is quite difficult. And so I think it's difficult to say women are less likely to be sexually either not promiscuous, I'm not getting the right word, but
proactive,
as forward, proactive, whatever. Because if there was a cultural level playing field, then we might see a very different balance in that behaviour from what we do now. If you're going to ask a question within our current cultural construct, then the answer is yeah. I think men are obviously more likely to be proactive or whatever. There's another word, and I'll remember it in a minute.
Well,
so everyone else,
isn't there a biological reason for women to be more selective, though? I mean, they might potentially have to carry a child for 9 months. A guy is just going to potentially just move on.
Well, deep in their core of their kind of womanhood probably is. But this also, bear in mind, she was drinking hard.
Yeah, is she an alcoholic?
No, she was just out for a night out.
Okay.
Dave, sometimes you have to consider, I'm going to tread very carefully here, some English women...
that's not carefully at all. That is not treading carefully. That is not treading carefully.
Occasionally
live on YouTube, remember.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes that kind of thing can be just another form of self-loathing. You know, it's like alcoholism, for instance, is a disease of loneliness, some people say. And so they're in a sense trying to, like, they just don't like themselves, so they're doing something to hurt themselves. It's just kind of a strange way to think about it.
Well, then I must be the rule to the exception, because I'm single, I'm lonely, even though I live with my parents. I don't drink. I don't drink a lot, just one beer.
I don't think it works the other way around, that you're necessarily an alcoholic just because you're lonely.
Yeah, I don't think that is the point. I think that persons that have, I will say this, maybe weak-minded. I think
oh my goodness!
That is where resides the problem for certain persons. Turn to alcohol as a substitute or a solution to their problems.
And we used to have a horn here for when members of the audience wanted the subject to change. This is a different horn and a very good one, I think. How about more real experiences and fewer abstract musings? I've got to say, fair play to you, Victoria, for that intervention there.
Yeah, okay.
That said, you know, we will inevitably return to abstract musings. But does anybody want to own anything around this? I mean, Andrew, where were you and your colleagues? You see, the interesting thing about the situation you've described there, and I'm going to make an abstract musing and a judgment here, but it's like that's cabaret sometimes when you're out and about, isn't it? If this is colleagues and not a bonded community or a family where you might step in, right, and say, or her friends might step in, or as a community of people, you might say, look, you're really pissed and you're making. You're taking a course of action here which you might not feel too happy about tomorrow, or you say to the guy, look, you see what's going on here, and he did, and he left. It's awkward, isn't it, that we live in a world where we watch these things happen rather than own them as a collective necessarily.
I mean, I'll put this into kind of context. They are all colleagues. One is a former colleague, the guy who was the target of her affections, so we say. I think she's got a bit of a thing for him anyway, despite the fact he's married. And the thing is, because they're colleagues, it's not like you can go, right, drive a wedge between them and sort of split them up and play defense, if you like. But also, it was quite funny to watch. I know it sounds quite sadistic.
You rascal, yeah.
This guy was wriggling like a worm on a hook, and he was almost cornered. But he basically had a lift, and he said, "I've got to go. My lift is going."
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. I thought he had a lift. Right. I mean, who wouldn't?
The thing is, and you know what English sense of humour is like. It can be quite. That's going up the sleeve for Monday kind of thing. You know. It's
yeah.
There may be some ribbing about this next week. But the phone call I took at the beginning of the show, he phoned me. It's like, guy, wow. And
He was like, "Don't mention that live on YouTube." Whatever.
He was scared. So
I'm going to smash your face in tomorrow.
You won't tell anyone, will you?
No, but it's my observation of this scenario. But you can imagine guys getting drunk and going, being a slobbering idiot over women, and then going brush off. But it's quite interesting to see almost like the opposite.
Yes. Yeah.
I can imagine seeing partners of your male colleagues watching this video in over the next few weeks and thinking, is he talking about my man? Was he talking about my man?
Yeah, we'll be miles away by then. It's fine. So in terms of owning... Oh, go on, Gary,
Yeah, I want to ask a question. How many of you guys actually believe that men are naturally monogamous? Oh, look at that.
Well,
look at that.
So
trick question.
I don't know if this is going to get abstract, though, right?
No, just want to get kind of an opinion.
Well, it's not
do you mean?
I think it's.
What do you mean? What do you mean naturally? How do you mean naturally?
Well, are we by our nature monogamous? Do you think that
you're talking about an individual, like an individual? Everybody probably, or not necessarily everybody, but most guys would want to. But in societies that are not monogamous, it quickly falls apart. Those cultures fail.
I don't know whether I can agree with that, but there you go. That's an overgeneralization, I think.
But here's another way of looking at it. You can answer the question: are you monogamous? I am monogamous. I'm going to say that. I don't know if I naturally am, but that's not an issue anymore. I've decided to be monogamous. That is what I've decided to do.
Yeah, but if there you go. What made you be monogamous?
By choice. I think it's the right thing to do for me.
And maybe there's a difference between sort of cheating and it being accepted. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people cheat, but it's kind of rare for a society to just be like, yeah, it's totally fine.
Do you know? It's
why is that?
It is a choice. I agree with Victoria. It is a choice. And all the relationships I had or girlfriends I had, I always try my best and did my best to always be the man for her, and that's it. Not interested in bouncing around on beds or trying to conquer other women just because she could be or wouldn't be more attractive than she was. That didn't make any difference for me because I liked her then when I was in a relationship with her, so I keep on in the relationship. Monogamous.
Okay.
In monogamy.
David's point. That comment there was going to go exactly where it was going to go next. You know, in Muslim cultures, there's more than one wife.
Oh yeah.
So that, and sometimes that works very well. And if you think about it, by its design, or that case probably not fair for women. But as a family unit, I suppose that works quite well because there's more people to look after the kids and bring them up. And, as long as they can take care of each one fairly, there you go. There's an example of works.
Well, they don't allow it the other way. If they allowed women to...
There is a tribe in Africa.
Women don't usually work in that society, do they? They don't.
There is a tribe in Africa that the woman picks the husbands.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she has a male harem, so to speak.
Yeah. And it's not all Muslim societies that accept polygamy. So the Muslim societies in the Middle East accept polygamy, but then so did the ancient Abrahamic tradition, and it was more about the culture of the desert and the way that culture worked, and the polygamous Muslim culture did not last for any length of time in the South Indian subcontinent or many other places where Islam was spread. And so it's not about the religion; it's more about the material environment that the culture found itself with. And yes, as Joel says, there are polyandrous societies in some primitive tribes. I understand there's been more than one family in history, but it's possible there's only one still exists.
So we're talking about a sample of what, like 100 people in Africa that are modelling this particular exception to the rule.
Well, the thing is that, we're talking about a small primitive society that's still in existence, but we don't know how things were for 3,000 or 4,000 years ago. When you're talking about if something is natural, then you have to be looking at the human condition long term, and not in the last few hundred years. Our genes haven't changed that much, and when you say is naturally, you're talking about what the genetic predisposition is. I think that the genetic predisposition is cannot be for monogamy. You can choose to be monogamous. You can choose to be serially monogamous. I never have more than one partner and try and stick with one partner. Maybe they'll die, whatever. You take another partner. But that's a choice. It's not something that's natural. It's a choice, and it's a choice that you make normally when you're happy in your relationship, and then probably when you're still trying to ensure that relationship can stay happy. But that monogamy tends to fail when, and I'm talking personally because it happened to me on 2 occasions now, that monogamy fails when the relationship has gone so bad that it really cannot be salvaged.
Does the monogamy fail? Does the monogamy fail, or do we fail? I think we fail. It's not. You can't. I was going to say things.
Fails.
Yeah, and also, I mean, we are. We're not natural, are we? Most of my life is choices. I don't think I'm very natural. I have a sense of what's natural, but all of my life as a modern person, modern man, is a series of choices, and very little of it is natural. I don't jump on a rabbit when I see it and tear it apart and eat its beating heart like a natural hunter-gatherer might do. I choose to go.
That's only because you've got an option, isn't it?
Yeah, and I choose. I choose to go to the supermarket, and I think that's my whole life is choices I take responsibility for.
I think this is my point of view. I don't think that men really are naturally, and I'll put that in brackets for which way you want to phrase it, monogamous, because it doesn't make sense. Because our primary function, really, like it or not, is to breed, to replicate. That's what we're here for. And if we don't, it's the end.
It's not just breed though. You have to survive too.
Give
birth and then continue to exist.
Your function is to survive, to get to maturity, so you can breed and pass on your genetics.
Well, think about though, like you're married, right? And so if your wife cheated on you, think about how that would make you feel, or it's the same. If you cheat on her, how would that make her feel? And
I'm not going on about feelings. I'm not going on about the depth of it. I'm just saying that is actually way nature probably programmed you to be. But otherwise, why are we having affairs? Why are we having multiple partners?
But genetics, it's not just genetics alone to determine our nature. It's our environment, and we're also extremely social. So it's the other humans we interact with. That's what determines. It's not just nature, you on an island. You don't exist on an island. If you look in
nature, the large proportion of things are not monogamous. They're not. There's a small fraction of things that are.
That doesn't prove the point, though.
Yeah, but if it was left to nature, right, we'd be,
So, what advantages are there to living as a bonded couple?
But that's social conditioning. That's a social thing.
Well, no, that's the question: is what advantages do we currently think there are to being a bonded couple rather than a community that looks after the families of everybody else around them, and you have interactions with multiple people?
Which would work better. We haven't actually.
It's been tried. It falls apart almost every time. Yeah. But not always.
It falls apart in our current society. 10,000 years ago, we weren't all living in our own little houses. We were living in bonded communities.
Yeah, but none of us here is an anthropologist, so we're just talking.
You don't need to go that far. Just look, for example, at Roman
That's why you can't
history.
take all apart.
During the Roman Empire, you see that even the Romans back then weren't monogamous. They were polygamous.
Yeah, orgies. There you go.
Yeah, they have
Oh,
orgies
come
all the time.
on. Just what you like up Pompeii doesn't make you an expert on ancient culture.
No, it doesn't have anything to do with Pompeii. Come on.
It's a particular film, Joe, with Frankie Howard in it. Have you not seen it? Infamy.
There is a TV series called Rome, which that is considered the red ball on the top corner of the TV, which is considered a PG for adults, basically, because it has sex in every single episode, a little bit like Game of Thrones. But then again, you see how basically it portrays pretty well how Roman Empire worked back then.
Really? Come on.
Yeah, really.
Can I bring this back to the male perspective rather than culture and history and
speculation?
People's.
Well, Charles.
I've been monogamous in a relationship always. That's been one of my things. Like Carl, I've chosen consciously to go, I really like this person. I'm going to have a relationship with them. I'm sure I've been cheated on. I'm positive. In actual fact, to the point where it cost me my oldest friendship. I think the reality, if I was single and as a young man, you walk around as a young 18, 20, whatever year old, you walk around permanently hard, pretty much. Cast your mind way back, gents. The change of wind probably caused an erection. And the thing is, I think the reality of our society, or Western society, it kind of takes two to tango, But certainly, I saw some comments saying, marriage is obsolete from Victoria. I don't believe in the religious aspect of marriage, but I believe in the kind of monogamy relationship where you two are a unit, a team, a conglomerate, a meeting of minds and spirits, if you like.
Is that not the religious meaning?
Well, no, because religion is a different topic, and I want to stay away from that. Marriage is an element of religion, isn't it? You get married in a church or in a mosque or in a whatever other religious sites that marriages occurring. Typically, I'm generalising again. So, but the idea of saying I've picked, this is the woman, I'm absolutely wrapped with her. This is what I want. And it takes sometimes with me, I got married in my 40s. So, I'd never been married before. And I'm pleased I waited, because divorce must eat it. Absolute shit. And if anyone has been divorced, my commiserations to you, because it must be absolute drama to go through that kind of separation.
Unless it's a conscious uncoupling.
Well, and mutual uncoupling, and that happened to my auntie, actually, a mutual uncoupling, and that was a very civilized and very mutual element. Yeah, and Victoria says marriage is a financial contract. In history, you got married for advantage, not love. It was all a contract or a betterment. But these days, you kind of look for more meaning, I think, rather than fiscal gain,
Physical gain now often as well.
It's every perk, isn't it?
I would offer the thought that actually women are not naturally monogamous either. It's just social conditioning, religion, whatever powers us as men that keeps them in that framework. And like your friend that made the move on the other guy kind of supports that. When you're drunk, all your inhibitions fall away, and you revert to your basic sort of instincts. So I think religion and cultural conditioning plays a big part on this, and I think women are probably just as bad as men in that respect, given the chance.
So I was laughing at Victoria's comment.
Does he feel the same way, Victoria? I wonder.
Some women, perhaps. I don't like my wife. I don't. She's. There'd be no way. And I, if you've been cheated on, or you've ever cheated on anyone and felt really badly about it, you know why you don't do that. You know what I mean?
That's the honest part of the conversation here, isn't it? Is talking from experience, and that's.
But is that the dishonesty of it, or the doing it?
Yeah, it's the dishonesty. I mean, I suppose.
So if it was spoken about and if it was discussed, would it then be okay to do it?
I mean, it's knowing
about agreement that you could.
Yeah, it's knowing about the hurt that you're going to cause to someone that you love.
Yeah, I think you have to be a real dick to kind of elect to cheat.
But then you're not cheating, are you? If you've elected to do it, it's not cheating. It's an arrangement. And I having been in that position and tried it, it was a disaster. And men struggle more with that. Speaking from my personal experience, I thought it would be great, and it was really horrible.
Well, you mean an open relationship?
Yeah. I proposed an open relationship in the first or second significant, or first major adult relationship I was in. I proposed we had an open relationship because I wasn't able to address other things that caused me to think that would be the solution. And when it happened, and my woman fell in love with someone else, and it was too late.
Great, let's do that. Wait. Oh shit.
Yes, it was done. It was done, and it was over, and it was a disaster. It was a terrible idea. And as I recall now, it was because I couldn't address something more fundamental. I didn't have it within me to really address what was really the problem. And that's what I think about with affairs. If you're by the time you're unfaithful or having an affair or cheating, your relationship's probably over a while back anyway. Go on, Gary.
How can she be your woman if it was an open relationship?
Okay. I don't mean that in a possessive way. The woman who I was supposed to be, the woman I lived with in a house, who I had a child with, that from society, from an external point of view, she would have appeared to have been my partner, if you like.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's a full-on lefty. She'd have hated to have been called my woman.
But why? If you don't mind me asking, why did it fall apart? If you had got that arrangement and you'd made that arrangement, why didn't it work?
Because, as I said, it wasn't the solution. Because I hadn't identified the right problem. The problem was that I thought I deserved to have a better sex life.
Yeah.
The problem really was as a 20-year-old, I wasn't able to communicate my needs very well, or be very adult in negotiating a sensible relationship. It was I was very self-centered, very, as people tend to be when they're 20. I'm not beating myself up necessarily. But I can see it wasn't a good strategy. It wasn't a good solution, even though it seemed rationally perfect to me.
Seemed a good idea at the time.
It seemed a good idea at the time. And then there was a moment when it seemed like a really awful idea. Oh, my God, what have I done? And it was at that point somebody suggested to me, in the anguish that I found myself in, funnily enough, coming back to marriage, somebody said to me in an area where I was getting some sort of comfort, support, counselling, if you like, insight into life, they said, ask her to marry you. And so I did. And she said no. And at that point, I knew it was over. It was done. And there was no point carrying on suffering.
No future.
I destroyed the relationship through my own inability to communicate, my own inability to be understanding what was really going on. And it was done. And at that point, I was able to, I could finish it and walk away, and everyone could get on with their lives. Having gone from, a rational heaven to a practical hell. And that's what we do. I think that is the roller coaster ride of humanity, isn't it? The rational heaven. This is a great idea, and then the practical hell of I actually don't like this. This is awful.
This is also, I think, partly the younger male brain has the influence of a second brain, and you kind of sometimes make the wrong decisions accordingly. I mean, when I've been single, it was open season as far as I was concerned.
Isn't it also true that you just weren't really an adult yet? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. I've always said I would never get married before 30 because I wasn't ready for it.
And at some point, you can reproduce, but you're not yet a man. And eventually, you're like, oh, wait a second. I need to stop being a child and take responsibility and realize that, these ideas, these fantasies about what's going to be the perfect sexual relationship is just
Yeah, but
it's
also in my 20s, I had ambitions like I wanted to start a career, I wanted to travel the world, and and I was fortunate to tick all those things off the list. And I couldn't have done that being married or having kids.
Yeah. A bit more rationality there, I think, right? I mean, I totally get it, Andrew. That makes perfect rational sense, doesn't it? And then occasionally a spanner gets thrown in the works, doesn't it? Like you fall in love when you're 26 and you haven't done those things.
Well, to be fair, when I went overseas when I was in my 20s, my then girlfriend went to go to uni in Edinburgh, and I was planning to go to Australia, and that kind of ended things. But yeah, I think that's also relationships end partly because of natural phenomena or natural like plans. Two people have got different ideas, and it was cool. Like we said, we'd do our own thing, and in another dimension, a parallel world, she might not have gone to Edinburgh, and I might not have gone to Australia, and who knows? But
it sounds like a Richard Curtis movie.
No, Sliding Doors.
Yeah, or that sort of thing, didn't it? Comparing and contrasting those trajectories of that.
Do you know what I mean? Again, I wasn't ready for it at my mid-20s, so I think the reality is that I planned it subconsciously to always keep myself kind of shielded from. My friends would say in my 20s I was an absolute first-class iron-hearted bastard, but that was my kind of defense mechanism from being like pretty damaged as a child, if you guess.
Yeah, I get it.
My self-defense mechanism was to shield myself well away from like people penetrating that barrier.
Yeah, fair enough. Understand that. Yeah. Wowzers, because we asked quite a few questions there, didn't we? And Doc's given his apologies. He's knackered, or we've tied him out, or something like that, and he's gone for a lie down. But I think this has been a fascinating discussion so far. Absolutely. And, I was really intrigued, Gary, by the idea of, what is natural. And I get it, but we don't really know. Isn't that all speculation, what might be natural?
Well, let's be honest. It's down to the individual at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's right.
You know that the and we talked about this the other week. The testosterone urge is a powerful thing, and it can make you do some really, really bad things. You affect your judgment and throw away relationships, this, that, and the other. Well, yeah, but I think in men it kind of rules them a bit more. And I put this question to a woman actually, just to add off sort of the top of my head, is that when you are premenstrual or you are menopausal, obviously your hormones are fluxing all over the place. Can you be rational and can you be collected in your thoughts? Can you control it, in other words? And she said, "Don't be stupid. How can I do that?" And my reply is that we have our hormones, right? We have them in surges. Sometimes we don't know when they're going to come. And, they're just as powerful. They are just as powerful, but we do have to control them. And especially in relationships and stuff, we have to.
You might say that that's a really good reason for people to get married then. And to commit to someone and to have their relationship ordained by the community they live in. Because while that's going on, for women or for men, and their feeling state, if you like, is changing, and they're becoming irrational, illogical, out of order, whatever that might be. If they have an agreement in place that supports them in that time and welcomes them back when they've finished, that would be a pretty awesome organisation or institution to be part of, wouldn't it? Especially if it was sanctioned by the community you live in.
It's on a singular level. You develop a certain honesty in yourself and a certain, credibility in your relationship. And if you cheat, you're going to throw it away. So you're going to be telling lies to yourself. You know what I mean? You have to reach a point where you value something that much that you have to draw the line and say, this is what I want, right? And I have to protect that by acting in a certain way. Part of your brain might be thinking, oh, God, there's an opportunity here or whatever, or she's lovely. But you don't want to throw all that away because you've built so much with that person. And it's all going to come apart, and it will. So you develop a credibility.
I think you're talking about a concept known as like metacognition. So you're aware of the thoughts you're having, and you know that this is just a pattern in your mind, and you know, when you're young, you haven't recognized the problematic patterns yet. As you get older, you're like, yeah, don't do that. That doesn't go well.
Yeah. But you're talking the primitive brain, controlling the primitive brain. And yeah, probably as we get older, we get better at it. When we're younger, maybe we don't. But then, as life has told us, sometimes that can just come undone.
So this is sort of maybe about the book that you had at the beginning. About what was the title of the book, Carl? Yeah, I wonder if this is a topic that's in there. One thing that happens is, you know, I'm guilty of this. This happens to me all the time. If you have a bad memory and you just think about it, and that sort of stress happens. You know, I mean, just thinking about it, you just get stressed. I guess every time you do that, the frequency of that happening or you sort of reinforce that memory or that thought pattern. And it's going to happen again. It's more likely to happen again if you have that thought. So it's just how to break these patterns where we get in. You know, we're thinking about things in a unconstructive way. You know, thinking about our regrets or our memories, and we're not really progressing. We're just sort of on loop, experiencing the same emotions.
Is that what you found? Is that an experience you're describing? Are you making a point about humanity or more of a personal observation?
Yeah. That's certainly a problem that I face personally. Right. Is that I have regrets and I find that I'll just relive a moment and experience the exact same emotions, and I can't. You know, it's just a pattern in your mind, and you just relive it, and you know, sort of how do you break out of that pattern? Because you know it's just a thought, and you can just think about it differently, and you'll get a different like physiological reaction to it. You won't have that stress, the cortisol firing, and all the problems associated with that.
Does it lead to a behavior as well, or is it just something that occurs in the mind?
You can have like a twitch. You know, some people, you know, stress does weird things to people. So, you know, you could have a mantra you repeat, or a twitch, or but it's just really unhealthy. You know, these hormones are firing that you don't need at that time. It's just stress. You have like a flight or fight response, but there's no good reason for that. You're just sitting at your desk.
Okay, I mean, the problem occurs to me that if that drives a behavior, then it's a problem. But we, again, putting forward, suggesting a possible what is natural about human beings, it occurs to me it's quite natural or predictable that experiences or memories of experiences create emotions. So if you find yourself in a situation that reminds you of another situation, you may well experience the same feeling in a way that, you know, the classic dog that got beaten by a tall man in a long coat. Every time it sees a man in a long coat, it starts growling and barking and protecting itself. I think we're like that on an animal level, but we don't necessarily need to start snarling and barking like a dog does because we have a super consciousness over the top of that.
Right, but you're talking about two different things. So you're talking about if it leads to behavior that causes more problems for you, of course that's worse. Yeah. But I mean, I'm saying even the thought, even that repetitive thought that's causing stress, that is a problem.
Only as much as sweating and defecating might be, right? These are to me, these are human functions. That's how it works, and you observe it going on. You see sweat coming out your armpit. You wee and you poo, and you have emotions coming up as a result of past experiences.
Doesn't have to be like that, though. You can break out of that.
What, by reconditioning yourself and eventually?
Yeah, you're aware that this is a thought that you're having, and just, I'm gonna, you know, you can have a strategy for dealing with that.
Like a psychic deodorant, almost.
Gonna think about something else. Don't dwell on it. For instance, don't keep running over these.
So much hard work, though, isn't it? Like trying to catch that. And,
training your mind it's got to be the hardest thing, right? That's our most powerful organ. Has to be the most difficult thing to do.
Trying to, I think, is the hard work. But go on, Gary.
It's like when you start a new relationship with somebody, right? I mean, what reference points have you got? You've only got your past, what you've done, and you know how that worked out, and you expect certain things to happen in a certain way, And that's got to be the biggest mistake you can make, because every relationship is completely different. It doesn't really have any relevance to the relationship you just had. There might be a couple of similarities, but once you start thinking, oh, this happened last time, you're on a rocky road to nowhere, because everything is a unique experience. And you've got to do that when you enter a relationship. You can't use your past hurts and your fears to let it affect your present relationship.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm not talking about my relationship though. I'm just talking about, I could be sitting here, working, and I just have a regret. You just have a memory that just, it's like, why I really don't want to think about that right now. I'm trying to get my work done, for instance.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. Well, I call it Alejandro syndrome. Yeah, and things can come up, can't they? Things that are burned in the past will come up.
Every time you see a guitar on a VW camper van.
Exactly, or an Argentinian. It's there. And we have this capability, don't we? Which is our greatest, possibly, to the transcendent possibility, which is maybe what you're talking about, Dave. Is that over time, like I wouldn't have dared mention this 10 years ago. I'd have still been quietly grieving about it and nursing it as a hurt. But now, it's a joke, and I don't think it hurts me anymore. It's something I've changed by observation and sharing and discussion, and I think that's possible as a way of managing these things. Gary?
No, I'm not saying anything now.
Well, so one behavior can lead to, for instance, alcoholism. If you have depression or regret, you just like one way to not think about the problems.
Yes.
Go to the bottle, and then you could strike out at other people, for instance.
Yeah,
and you're fine. It's other people are the problem.
Haven't we all done a little bit of that, or on a spectrum of that somewhere? Even having a drink at the end of a hard day is the little brother of that, isn't it?
I suppose so. Yeah. That's a
what
fair
do you
point.
need to drink?
I mean, that's the thing. Alcohol changes your chemistry. It changes the way you are. How it depresses you and takes away some of the feeling. And for me, it actually, whatever mood I'm in, alcohol will amplify it. So if I'm not in a great place and I have a drink, I'll get in a worse place. If I'm in a good place and have a drink, I'm happier and more cheerful and the rest of it. So there's times where I'll know not to have a drink because I know that I don't want to be going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. I could start out in a good place and be fine, and then I for sure will drink too much and then be in a bad place.
Yeah, or somebody will say something, or the situation you're in changes, and
Doesn't happen with me. I get happy, spout a load of bullshit, and fall asleep.
Yeah, we love that about you.
I'm going to chime in on this one, and we touched on this earlier about how quickly can your mood snap between good mood and bad mood, or do you wake up in a good mood or do you wake up in a bad mood? Again, I think this is kind of partly testosterone based, maybe, or maybe again it's kind of upbringing or environment. My dad was an angry Scotsman, and my upbringing was one of not affection but like discipline, and I think that's rubbed off on my psyche, because I can snap. My mood can snap, and it's random things that can provoke me. And I know this is an animal that lurks within, and I hate it about myself, but it's there. It's kind of been like drummed into me, and I can normally wake up in a good mood. I'm normally very pleasant an individual, but things piss me off, and I'm sure things piss us all off. But my mood takes a very savoury turn. And my missus will sincerely agree with us. She's like, wow. And I hate it about myself, but it's there. But it's not stimulated or brought on by alcohol. I'm a great drinker. My only side effect is slurred speech, but I can maintain my composure. I can walk myself home. And maybe that's another Scottish trait. I don't know.
Yeah, it probably is.
But it's funny, whether this is because of testosterone or because it's the man condition or maybe it's just me or my upbringing. I'm not sure.
Kudos to you, Andy, for seeing that, though, because to me, I would say, I don't know if you'd agree with me, Gary, but by the time you're in your 50s, it will seem, given your ability to name it and talk about it, in your 50s, you'll be that much further away from it. I don't just mean chronologically. It won't hurt you as much as you get older, because you have a conscious grasp of it in a way that possibly your dad didn't ever manage. I don't know. You know, we don't know, do we?
It's what I said the other day, wasn't it? You've got to dance with the devil a few times to recognise him when it comes to the next party. So you've got to know your own, you know, your inner self and your own sort of weaknesses and, you know, what you're about. I think when you get to your 50s, that's probably, you know, when you've done most of the things in life you're going to do. It's fairly spectral on that sort of thing.
It's a real, like, flaw. I've known it always. It's always lurked there. But it's kind of, maybe it's conditioning from my childhood. I don't know. But it's that kind of man thing again, where it's like, you know, how was he? If he drunk, he liked to drink. He's a Scotsman. And you know what it was like back when we were kids? Your folks would probably have a beer or five and drive home and not think about it.
Oh, yeah.
That was just the time it was back then. But like I said, an ex-military and disciplinarian, it's kind of what my upbringing was. It wasn't affectionate. And hopefully my missus is still watching. She'll agree with me that I've told her this, that I hate it about my personality. It's kind of a big flaw of it, but it's kind of what I have.
She can be proud of you, though. She can be proud of you to have that level, I think, of insight and grasp of the situation and about yourself. I think it's amazing, honestly. And, you know, don't give yourself too... I mean, given that you can see it so clearly...
Yeah, but sometimes I try and contain it, but sometimes it's impossible to stop the reaction. You know,
maybe that comes from trying to contain it. You know, maybe a forgiveness might be more useful than like, I'm not going to go here. I'm not going to go here. I'm not going to go here. Ah, I've gone here.
You know, it's like you guys have a tool shed or a garage, or I don't know what they call it. Maybe not the man cave, but like the tool shed or the workshop or the whatever you want to call it, Dave, in America. Is it the shop?
Yeah, you could have a shop or a garage.
Yeah, garage, that's the thing. So you're out, and my missus has watched this. I'm out in the garage doing something, and I mutilate a finger, say, with a hammer. And, oh, my Lord. And it's like, normally you go, but no, I've sent stuff flying. And it's like I said, it's the devil that lurks within. But saying that, like I said, it's not brought on by alcohol. I have dated women, though, as this kind of segues back to what we're talking about, who would drink and their mood was unpredictable. Quite scarily. It ended my first ever proper girlfriend. I was like 19, 20. It ended our relationship because we'd go out and drink, and it'd be a lottery of what sort of personality you would be driving home.
Wow.
In the car.
Yeah.
Maybe some of you guys can sympathise or empathise with that, or have experience of that as well.
We haven't heard from Joel in a while.
Joel's just sucking it all up.
I think you put a very good point out there, Andy. You sometimes you reference your parents and the faults that they may have in your own mind. Unlike you, myself, I'm quite a happy-go-lucky sort of guy. It's quite peaceable, but when I've reached that point of anger, I change into a different beast, and it's not nice. It really is not nice. It's not necessarily angry, but there is a deep anger there. But it becomes very cold and very calculating and destructive. And I realised I'm looking at my dad when I did that, because that was him. When he was drunk, that's the persona that he had. And it's not wild anger. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you get into sort of a conflict with somebody or fight, right? I'm not thinking. I'm thinking, I'm going to hit you there. I'm going to take you down there, and I'm going to do that. And it's chilling to see, and it's not nice, and it's kind of evil in a way. But that was him. That's the way he would operate.
Top bloody wing though on a night out.
Oh yeah. But I realise what you say, and sometimes you find your own shadows in your own soul, but they are reflections sometimes of somebody else, so not necessarily your own fault.
Yeah, and you learn it. I mean, who else are you going to learn this stuff from apart from the grown-ups and the giants in your childhood, right? It's understandable and extremely forgivable as well, given the level of self-awareness here. It's extraordinary. A lot of people can't even get there, can they? Or can't get to this level of understanding and observation. And I think it's a big bonus.
It's funny though, because I've consciously endeavored to live my life completely differently to how he did his.
Yeah,
that's the net result. I mean, my folks divorced when I was 11, and it was an ugly time as well. So I was a pretty kind of like withdrawn kid at school. I didn't really say much, integrate much. I just got on with it, But maybe this is why I live my life consciously completely different to my yardstick. Because the yardstick I had was pretty bad, to be fair. So.
Yeah.
What I would say about that, Andrew, is that you're not free of him in that positioning, and I admire your positioning. I admire your wish to reject that which you despised in your father, and I think we can all relate to that. And I also recognise that the trouble with doing that, from my own experience and observation of human beings, when you try to do the opposite, you are not free of that person, because you're still relating to them as the focus of your weakness or whatever it is, anger or your emotion.
Damage, I call it.
Your what?
My damage.
Yeah, your damage. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the attachment to the damage, the focus on the damage, it may not be as freeing as inventing some sort of new possibility for yourself.
Yeah, I get that, isn't it? But it can only be me. That's the thing. I'm not a professional actor. I don't have any kind of like persona training. I'm not bipolar. I don't think I am.
You're fighting me for it now. I think you're fighting me for it.
No, I just think it's that thing of the man condition again, isn't it?
No, I understand it.
What we've talked about last week as well. It's what is future man? Do we drag the history along with us, or do we try and drop it, or how does it work?
We name it, don't we? We name it. I mean, that's what I'm talking about here. We name it how it's going to be, and we would do well to name something that we know works. So that's like the best of both worlds, isn't it? If you have a historical reference point from a personal and cultural point of view of things that work, you might want to incorporate that into your new vision.
Yeah, I guess. But if you're going to chart something, you need to know where your origin is, don't you?
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's important.
Disagree with that. You don't need to know where your origin is. You need to know where you're going, because you're going there from here, not from back there.
Good point.
So you can take today as being your origin and go, this is where it's going to be. This is what my life's going to be mapped out like. This is how I want to respond to things. If you do have those responses, and my guess is that there's some form of defense mechanism in there, which is why you're responding in that way, because that's what happens for me in those similar situations. And a lot of people will dive into what's happened in the past and all of that stuff. You make your own rules and go from here.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I had a social studies teacher that said a thing that was this: if we are not careful what we are doing now, in the future we tend to repeat mistakes from the past. As simple as that. So my concern, for example, and this is valid for everything, since for human interactions, to society, to whatever. Everything related has a tendency to self-repeating. If we are not careful enough from learning from the mistakes and from the past, and that includes everything. Now, if we are, for example, now I don't see how this next generation or two generations after us will portray themselves as men, because there's a tendency from other sources like social medias and everything else that tend to detort or even change the way that we should consider things. That, for example, I find the basic rule for men. With that said, it is up to us when educating our kids to make sure that they have the common sense of, when they have their own kids, to pass along the wisdom that we try to convey to them.
It's a good theory.
I want to add something there, right? And you'll appreciate this, Carl. It's really easy to focus on the negatives and the bad things of your childhood and all the things that, you know, your parents weren't particularly good at. But then that has to be redressed, because not everything was bad. I learned a lot from my dad, how to look after yourself, how to, you know, he was a very courageous man. He was very principled, very courageous. And quite often he fought the good fight for people, you know, and I respected that with him. And it wasn't really till I was quite sort of well on in years that we had the honest conversation together and discovered actually that we were quite similar. But you've got to improve on that, and that's what you're seeking to do. You are the Mark II. You're going to try and iron out the faults that you perceived as a child and try to be better. But take the good things that you learned and, you know, use that as best as you can. And that's life. And I think that I have. But, you know, that I suppose my son might look at me and think, well, we could have been better. But that's life. You don't have to bring people.
I think one thing, if you're critical of your parents, which is very easy to do, right? Because they've made mistakes, of course, but there are also people who learn from their parents, and so on and so forth. And it you know, one of the reasons why you can't blame them is these destructive patterns of human behavior didn't originate with them. They go way back. And so, you know, they might be culpable in the sense that they should know better by the time you get to a certain age. You know, you should grow up and you should realize that's no way to behave. And so they're guilty of that in some cases, for instance. So are we, of course. But I think the placing of blame, you have to be kind of careful about how you place blame on people and whether or not they're truly deserving of it.
I agree.
What's the point? I mean, I think what we're talking about here is identity. Like, you're taking responsibility for what's running in you, and you might identify it as something that's a pattern you picked up from observing your parents, but you don't need to make. What does it matter what the subjective judgment of that is? If it doesn't have a good result, that's enough to know, isn't it? If I just blow my stack every time something doesn't go my own way, like I might have learned from a parent, you think, well, that's not very productive. You don't have to make a personal judgment about them, do you? Or even the behavior. You can just say, well, I actually would like a new tool in this department. You know, I need something a little bit more functional and healthy as a response. And are we lucky that we can reinstall that kind of software, as it were, if we choose to, you know, if that be our wish.
Right. You can't use that as an excuse for your behavior. You tried it. Nobody's going to buy that. Like, oh, yeah, my dad hit me, so I'm hitting you, for instance. That I don't care. I just don't want to be hit.
But a more radical version of that is like, my dad hit me, so I'm never going to hit you. Now, that, whilst I think it's not a great idea to hit children, it's not a good look. It's not a good and healthy thing to do. Again, making rules because of your emotional reaction is not healthy and functional. It's just doing the opposite of what your parents did. That isn't functional. That is like, I'll teach them a lesson by doing the opposite.
Right, but that doesn't preclude evaluating their behavior, evaluating your behavior, and so at that point you might place blame.
Yeah, I think you absolutely would, wouldn't you? You would say, you know, this guy's an idiot for hitting me. I'm never going to hit anyone in my life. And the day you need to be like Garvo and hit someone, you haven't got it because you've made some sort of stupid decision. That's right. Yeah. We know what he's like when he goes out.
No, I'm peaceable, chap. I'm not made for combat anymore. I'm too old for that shit now.
No, I know. I'm kidding. I want people to know I was only joking there. But, you know, the point I'm making is like to make blanket decisions that are emotional. It's just not wise. As rational and understandable as it is, it's not wise. It doesn't work very well.
Actually, that's a very good point, because that was another thing my dad taught me. He said, "Look, son, don't go looking for trouble, because one day trouble will find you, and it's just got to know what to do when it gets there." Yeah. And I have never started a fight in my life, never, and that's my God's honest truth. But no, I've finished a few if necessary. But I think that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Garvo McNabb.
Yes. Legend. And I have a kind of a respect for that, how you put that, Gary. You know, and I think that, you know, that warrants an entirely separate and lengthy debate on violence, male violence and fighting. Where does that come from? Where is it best used?
Yeah, but it's like warfare, isn't it? When you finally got down to the nitty gritty, you know, diplomacy has failed. Everybody's failed, really, hasn't they? You know, that's the end of the process. You just dissolved into some primitive creature that's going to trash it out with somebody. It does happen, but it's not pretty.
No. Okay. Actually, sometimes doing the opposite is a very good place to start. Yeah, good point, Nubina. It means you have a realization, yes, that you want something different. Then you have to make peace with it by giving yourself grace. Absolutely. And I hope I made that clear with you, Andrew, when I was talking about, you know, doing the opposite of what Dad does is a great start. No doubt. But there's more.
It was, like I said, a conscious choice to live my life almost completely a parallel opposite. To what my experience was. I think it's worked for me, to paraphrase your question of how's that working out. I've tried to make the best of everything I can, and I think because of various conditions that I've also been quite ambitious, and my desire to travel is I think also partly because my parents always liked travel. So I mean, some good things have rubbed off, but also there's the elements of myself I find I dislike greatly. It's it's that kind of thing that's kind of imbued in my psyche, like I said, from maybe a very young age.
I've got to ask you about a Scottish condition, right? If I may, for a moment. What is it about this thing where I'll give you an example, personal experience. I'm sat on a coach, might have been reading a book like this, minding my own business. Quite a drunk, a Scotsman who smells of booze sits next to me and tries to make conversation a few times. And I'll, say, "You right, Paul? Yeah, I'm good. How are you?" And he's definitely like that, proper full-on Glaswegian thing. "You right there, Paul? Yes, great. Yeah,
man. Hey, you're right, man.
Yeah, exactly like that. You go to London then? Yeah, going to London. And then so I'll read my book again. And you can feel the atmosphere turning a little bit as he's sitting next to you, getting a bit fidgety. And it eventually turns into, "You're too good to speak to me, Paul." It's like, "What? No, I'm just reading my book here." What is that thing going on there? Am I alone in that?
No, can I answer this though?
Yes, of course. I'm asking you.
Okay. The Danes didn't conquest Scotland. The Romans didn't conquest Scotland. The Vikings didn't conquest Scotland. The English didn't conquest Scotland. No one's conquered those bastards. And genetically, you've got to think, why is that? But maybe because they're pretty damn hard people. And I love people. I really do. It's not a thing against or anything like that. I just think there are certain mindset, like the Irish, like the Welsh, English people are different. And also England's been conquered by everyone under the sun, as well as we went and built the empire. It's kind of England's the real mongrel of Europe, isn't it? I have to say. It's true. But no one,
right? Damn right. Scotland, the true Brits are the Welsh and the Scottish, really, aren't they?
Sorry.
That's
Say, go away.
the true Brits are the Welsh and the Scottish. If you think about
absolutely.
it.
Yes. No one conquered the Scots though. It didn't happen.
Yeah, but don't you think the Romans looked over the wall and sent all those angry Picts?
They built a wall
the rain and the cold. I'm not going there.
Yeah. And do you know the why they're called Picts?
Tell us, go on. Yes.
Well, they were called Picts or Pictish because of Latin for picture, that they had the painted faces.
Painted. Right. Yeah.
And also the Picts went and raided the wall for goodies because the Romans were camped out on it. They're like, they must have some stuff. But they also traded with the Romans at times as well. So, but they were never conquered.
No.
They tried. And so even back then, like the 4th century AD, it starts off fairly well, where a Scotsman took it to a Roman and says, "Hey, it's a nice tunic you're wearing, there, pal."
You're right, man.
and the Roman goes,
"You're too good to talk to me."
Exactly, and that's where it all began.
That's where it starts.
Yeah. Hang on. Hadrian's Wall was not manned by pure Romans. It was
manned by everyone in the empire.
Belgians, bloody
Moorish.
More. Everybody went there. I think it was a bit of a punishment place to send them to teach them a lesson.
It was pretty much the arse end of the empire, wasn't it? That's the thing. But again, like, I'm proud of having mixed heritage. My father's Scots, my mum's English. Well, as far as I know, I mean, she might have other heritage.
No idea.
But I guess there's also, maybe that's part of my character is that I've got the Scot in me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a nice sandals you got on there, pal.
Did you spill my pint?
Do you know what it is with the Scottish, right? And I like you, I've got Scottish ancestry, right? I've learned with the Scottish that they will test you out.
Yeah.
And like your man on the couch there, right? What he was doing was testing you out. He was pulling the strings to see how you react. You up yourself for one thing. And if you do, I'm going to have you for it because I'm Scottish and I can take in anybody. But if you can ride that first wave and sort of, go with it, they are lovely people. I love the Scottish people because they'll say it like it is. And if you don't like it, you can F off.
Yeah, absolutely.
I found that with Australia as well. Australia loves to give people stick, but you have to give it straight back to them for them to kind of identify with you and kind of bond with you. Like if you're a cheeky sod, they actually kind of will behave equally like that to you, and you'll have a common ground. What they hate is these kind of
stuck up.
Can I ask Joel a question? This is on a different topic. Sorry. So I'm curious about, and it's open question. What do you guys think the future of Portugal really looks like? Do you think, are things getting better or things getting worse?
Marvelous.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a beer.
What do you think, Joel?
Well, I think that the two things are to be considered. First of all, the willingness of the Portuguese people into admitting that Portugal needs to change. And second of all, the Portuguese need to do it in order for the Portuguese people to change. So that is it about the situation currently. That's what I think about the Portuguese overall.
Do you find a lot of people from other countries in the EU move to Portugal, or is it like mostly Brits or Americans? Or
I don't have any. Let me see. I worked with a Slovenian, with a Turk.
Where do you work? What kind of job?
I did office supplies. I did the manual build of office supplies.
That was before COVID?
Was it too stationary?
Long before COVID.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Joel?
I said way before COVID.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You think the economic conditions are improving, though?
A little bit, but then again, let's say like this: the minimum wage is now currently at 635 euros, if I'm not mistaken. But then again, you go to the gas station, you fill up with 10 euros of gasoline or diesel, and you pay 70% tax over that 10 liters you put on over 10 euros you put on the of gasoline or diesel.
Is it that way across all of EU, or is Portugal worse?
It is all over Portugal like that. I think that the only exceptions are the regional islands, Madeira and Ascension.
I mean, like other EU countries. Like, is it cheaper in Spain?
It's a lot cheaper in Spain. For example, gasoline is, if you want to pick 98, is almost 1.9 euros.
What do you think about? So the top tax rate in Portugal is 48%. I think Spain is 45%. I don't know how it compares with the rest of the EU.
The top rated tax in Portugal is 23%. 23%.
No. The top income tax. Top income
product you pay up front already 23%.
You're talking about the VAT. Is that the VAT?
Yeah, not even on your income. Income tax.
It depends on many situations. It depends on the wage you receive. It depends on your family. If you are single, if you are married, if you have one kid, if you have two kids or more. Depends on your workload. Also depends on how much it is paid on we call it subsídio de alimentação, or what you pay. You have an extra, like a not how will I put it in English, because I'm missing the word. You have an extra income attached to your salary where that pays for your meals.
Mm-hmm.
We call it subsídio de refeição. And that is a thing that, for example, each day, the maximum allowed before you pay taxes on it is €7.35 a day. But then again, that can change from company to company, where you can receive that at the end of the month, or you all together with your salary, or you have a credit card that the firm that you work, the company you work for, provides you, where you can have shopping expenses to buy food or going to a restaurant. You can pay with that card. So let
me get this right, Joel. Can I ask a question? I just need to know this to get this right in my head. So you kind of get a subsidised meal allowance. You get some sort of right. That's not a bad idea.
But it depends on the firm, on the companies you work with. You can receive that at the end of the month, like a salary. It comes already in the salary, or you have an independent card. They fill up that card. The company fills up that card with the monthly. If you, for example, miss one day or two on the job, they will discount those days, of course. But then again, you always have that card available to do shopping. For example, sorry, Andy, I will let you speak. When I worked for a company here in Vilar, which was a laboratory, an Israeli company, they paid with the subsidized meal was paid on a specific credit card. So you can go to Continente, Jumbo, Mini Mercado, whatever that accepted that card. You can buy your groceries for the entire month or 2 weeks, or how you work that way, or you can use that money you still have on your card and, for example, go eat out. That money, even though that money is attached to your income, at the end, for example, of the contract, you have to get that card back to the company.
Right. Can I tell you how much the subsidy is for me as an American to move to Portugal? It's about $56,000. That's the subsidy. You get there's $22,000 off your income tax. Just with Portugal, since they don't tax your income, and so there's a deduction it's an exemption for Americans on their income of $22,000. There's also a rent subsidy of, if you live in Lisbon, of like it's like $30,000.
Yeah, we don't have anything like that. For example, if you get minimum wage or below minimum wage every month, you don't even pay taxes. You're exempt. Automatically exempt. For example, myself, I am unemployed. I don't have any income, and every year since I'm unemployed, I don't even bother to fill out the tax form because I don't have any income. So even if I were to provide any information that I don't have anything to be provided of, or I don't have any money to move around, I don't have a solid income, I don't receive, nor I have to pay to the government.
Can I just ask Dave something there? Because I just want to clear it up. When you say subsidies, David, do you mean that from the Portuguese government, or
No,
from the American people?
It's from the American. So there are exemptions. You have to earn that money first, and then they basically, instead of paying that in taxes, you get to keep it.
So why the American government subsidizing people to go to Portugal? That's
a good question, especially the rent subsidy. That's the way it works is interesting because the first $16,000 you have to pay, and then in Lisbon it's up to $46,000. I think it's about 38,000 euros. They'll cover the rest up to 38,000 euros.
Yeah, it's a little bit less than 48.
Wow.
I didn't know that. Did you, Carl?
No, I didn't. I didn't know that. And we must do a webinar with you on it, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be that American thing where for each purchase also, I think car collectors are an example. And I know this from, for example, watching Uvi's Garage, that he for each purchase he has to make put it on taxes, and he has to figure out a way of not having to pay to the state or to American government, and try to at least top at zero for dividends, or that's, I think it's something like that.
Well, the thing I worry about is after 10 years, I don't want to pay 48%. I don't think I'll want to pay 48% income tax, but maybe I'll be so enamored with Portugal that it's like I want to give back or whatever, or who knows. But
it's relative, David, because the cost of living here is so less. So it might sound a lot, but you'll be spending less on what you're doing here, food and lodgings and stuff. So
if my wife has anything to say about it, we'll be spending more. Pretty sure.
What's the real question here, though? What's the real question? Is it going to be better for you to be in Portugal or America?
No. I'm almost. I think, like, I'm 100%. I'm going to move to Portugal, and I'm going to. So I think I would have test it out in like February or so for a month. So I need some short-term place to stay for a while and make sure that working remote and all that's going to work just fine. But we love Europe, and I talk about taxes, but it's just a math exercise, really. That doesn't. You're not taking anything with you, so you want to enjoy your life, and so that's what I'm focused on.
I think it is a 10-year exemption, or at least there was that, where foreigners that come to Portugal they weren't required to pay taxes.
That's the NHR, isn't it?
NHR,
for 10 years.
Residency.
But now you Brits have to pay 10% on your pension.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. You're a very keen scholar of these things. I mean, I thought your question was, which is going to be the better prognosis, America or Portugal or Europe or whatever. I think the whole world is going to get much worse.
You think worse?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like awful worse. It's terrible already for so many people, us not included necessarily because we're very privileged. But the general trend is downward. The modeling, if you're in any way intelligent, you can see that. But this is the least worst in so many ways. This is the least worst, and so that's what
I worry about. Like society but I don't worry about the economics of the planet. I think that in general, humans will continue to produce more and more efficiently than ever, and we're going to have more stuff, but that doesn't equal happiness.
No, I get it, and that's what I'm talking about. Getting worse, as in it's harder to be happy, if you like. If you use the world as your means for being happy.
Okay, so it depends. If you have nothing, getting some stuff is going to make you really happy. You know, if you're poor and you face climate threats that you just are just out of your control, and all of a sudden you have something to deal with those threats, you're going to be much happier. But if you live in Western society, more stuff is not what you need. Probably it's less.
Right, we're learning that. And maybe Green Soul, a new person here. Do we know you, Green Soul?
Actually, this is the first time I actually subscribed to your channel today.
And you're right.
Good evening.
You, what would you like to say?
No, I was just looking into Portuguese citizenship. I don't know really why. I've been living in the States since all my life. I was born in the States. But I always had a strong connection. I know my great-grandfather is actually from Lisbon. So I'm just looking into it. So actually, I'm contacting my dad to really get some information. So, hi.
Hello. I don't think the familial connection will help with citizenship, will it, Carl?
I don't know, but I'm learning though.
Like, if you're Brazilian, you could do it easier.
That's right. Or Jewish. Okay. There's also a scheme going way back as a kind, not, I don't know what the word is, like a sort of a historical making good, and I can't remember which particular sort of sector of the Jewish community can qualify, but there is that. And yeah, but I don't think there's kind of grandparenting or grandfathering unless you are from one of the former colonies. Then it's a little bit more possible.
All right. So
if you want to message me, I can provide some information.
Yeah. So I think the first thing I have to do is actually visit. So that's one of the plans I want to do, and yeah. So like it's something I guess it was always irked me as a kid, knowing that, that history, even though I was, I'm American, but at the same time, it's just like I really wanted to find out a little bit more. So I guess I'm getting to that age.
What part of the U.S. are you from?
I'm from Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Portuguese people in Jersey, right?
Yes, especially in Newark. Yeah. So yeah, I told them my last name and everything. So like, like they will say that. So I was like, okay. Yeah.
What I would suggest to you, Green Soul, because I don't have any other name reference for you. Sorry.
You can call me Frank. That's actually my real name.
Oh, okay, Frank.
Frank. Another Frank. We got another Frank.
Awesome.
There's a lot. There's too many Franks.
My suggestion to you would be, and to you, Dave, is visit Portugal and let it get under your skin and fall in love with it.
Yeah.
I haven't been specifically to Portugal, but we love Europe. We are 100%. And I'm definitely going to visit. I'm visiting Portugal at the end of August. And then, like I said, I'm going to stay for a month and just test it out.
Good. Right. I'd like to finish here. You guys can carry on if you wish, but I mean, we often finish with a kind of single question for everybody, and I think we could continue on from your theme that you introduced today about what do we think the future is like for Portugal. Because you can't take that out of the context of what's it going to be like in the world, right, at the moment. And that's, for me, it's a matter of relativity. And I think Portugal offers something really special within the general progress of the world. It's like it offers something really special in relation to that. And I think Charles hits the nail on the head here. We all like to visit if the lockdowns ever stop. That's the problem, isn't it? It's a very uncertain future for people coming here, but it's definitely still a great place to come. I'm going to ask all of you what you think the future is for Portugal, but in relation to how the general trajectory of the rest of the world, because it just is looking very, very possible that we're going to be in this cycle of lockdowns, And another, another one of typical Charles's sort of interjections here. Which government is going to be the less intrusive and controlling? You might want to factor that into your prognosis about Portugal as well. So, Joel, as a Portugueser, how do you see the future for Portugal? Is it going to get better?
That is a hard question for me to predict. Honestly, it all depends on the Portuguese trying to make better the future for themselves. And that
the people
will work. That will only work if society is willing to make pressure and change. And for that to happen, we all have to agree that the current system that we have today, that is ruling us, isn't perfect, and we need to pressure them and to make things right.
Okay, so if the people power works, and Portuguese people sort of rediscover their sense of power, is that the key to a more positive future as you see it here?
I think it is the key for the Portuguese to be more self-conscious of what we are currently facing.
Yeah.
And it is not a perfect system, currently with the one we have, because, for example, if we look back into 1975 or 1974, after the revolution, guess who was in power? Was the military. And during that year of transition of military then putting power back to the people, which occurred for the first liberal elections, if that until then everything worked. We had a wonderful general, so he's still alive, Ramalho. He did a wonderful job providing the foundations for the government to exist in Portugal after the revolution.
Mm.
And after that, in 1975, well, I'm not optimistic, and I have been discussing this before. I'm not going to address it again. The Portuguese political system is flawed. In my point of view, it needs a lot of change. So for the Portuguese to be more happier than we are, it has to change on the higher level, on the level that makes the laws for us.
Yeah.
As simple as that. If we don't change them out and put new people with new ideas and proper responsibilities and ethics, we will not go anywhere. We're still the same. We still have over budget on construction and everything else.
We treasure your view as a Portugueser. Thank you for that, Joel. Andy, what do you think? Because you're kind of in your pre-honeymoon phase, aren't you, of loving Portugal and the honeymoon of being here on a more permanent basis. How are you seeing it?
Well, I mean, I've got one foot on each side of the fence, if you like, because obviously I'm an English, British citizen, but obviously married to a wonderful Portuguese woman, and I have a very wonderful family. And my perspective is one from, put this into context. I'm from the southeast of the UK, and I have to say that I'm very fortunate. In the global scheme of things, I consider myself very fortunate. And I'm fortunate for the wealth I have, for the ability to travel, for my health, for my education, a lot of things I'm very grateful for. However, the fundamental differences between the two countries. You've got one that's a democratic republic and one that's basically a monarchy. And I have to say, the democracy I think we have in the UK is rather flimsy and fragile. Maybe Garvo might nod to that, maybe not. Certainly under the current management, it's a farce. I'm not a Tory voter, but I'm not a Labour voter, Garvo. I have to say, I vote Labour always. So what I think is these fundamental differences really run through the entire core of both countries. I was a Remainer, but the vote was cast, and I accept the result. And I think post Brexit England is going to be different as we know it or remember it. Maybe in the future it'll pick up and perk up and improve, but I can see the UK being in the doldrums for a number of years, particularly because of the impact of the economy of a pandemic. And I'm sure Portugal will still suffer the same impact because of the lack of tourism and the difficulty trading, so on and so forth. But what I see is more opportunity in Portugal. I see more opportunity personally. I see more opportunity for a different lifestyle. I see more opportunity for a small business venture or maybe maybe employment. But I think, like anything, if you're not particularly satisfied with where you are, you've got to change the script. And for me, Portugal is something that as soon as I visited, it felt like home. And every time I land in Portela, I feel like I'm home. It feels like I'm back. Which is when I fly to the UK from Portugal, I'm like, and I can't really put my finger on it. It's just how it feels for me. And maybe that's because I've lived in other countries, so I've called many places home. But Portugal has a feeling of home for me. It feels like I belong. It feels like my family are there now, and I'm familiar with the city. I can find my way around without sat nav, or I know the roads around stuff. And that familiarity kind of makes it feel not like a foreign country. It feels like home.
Very good.
All I need to do is master the language, and I think I'm there pretty much.
Easy peasy. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for that. Dave, do you want to have a go at that?
Yeah, sure. So I think that the future of Portugal and the European Union and America and Canada and all the other basically Western-style democracies are completely tied to each other. And I don't think people worry about autocracy. I don't think that that's a realistic threat to our way of life. But our threat is essentially imploding or self-destruction. We have we have all this change happening. There's more change than ever before, technology, and we have new generations that are growing up in this, and I question whether or not they have a real understanding of history, a real understanding of why we should care about these institutions in the countries we live in. One thing that I like about Portugal is they seem to be, and maybe Europe in general, is they are much more grounded. They seem to be much more grounded. I don't know, maybe they have the same problems as young people in America or whatever, but these are old cultures, well established, seem very stable. And one thing about Portugal, I'm sort of nostalgic for this, like, smaller communities. I don't know. I think Portugal will be fine. I think everybody will be fine, actually.
Very good. Thank you. And a green soul, well, we're not going to put you on the spot. That would be a bit unkind, I think. But we'll come back to you, see what you've made of all of this tonight. Stephen, did you want to put some skin in this particular game?
Yeah, so what was the question? What's going to be the future of Portugal?
Yeah, that was the original question. And also, I mean, within the context of how the world's looking and going.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I started watching the Good Morning Portugal was to find out a bit about Portugal and what its current state was. Because I know nothing about Portugal other than I've been to Lisbon and been to a retreat somewhere outside Lisbon. But the overarching feeling I get of it is that it's more community-based. It's there's more connection between people, whether that's family, whether that's community. So I'm kind of hoping that is going to see it through and going to perpetuate in the future. As far as where it fits into the world, I know I'm not happy with what's going on in the UK and the way the government just does what it wants, and there's no comeback to it. Whether there's any comeback on what the Portuguese government does, I've got no idea. But if I don't like it here, I might as well be somewhere where it's sunny.
that's a really good thought. Sure, isn't it? And yeah, now's a good time to be making a comment like that, because it wasn't feeling like that for the last few months. Stephen, thank you. Garvo, this is going to be good, I'm sure.
Oh, you always build me up, don't you? You always do this. You always leave me to the left. You always build me up.
Man
You're
of
a bug,
reason.
you really are. You really are.
I'm going to go
right,
last.
Joel,
I'm going to go
before I say anything here, Joel, I don't wish to sound condescending or superior or whatever, right? I'll just make that clear. But from our point of view, coming from very privileged backgrounds, and you know, we got into that sort of cycle of buying things and much wants more, and you've got to have this, you've got to have that, you've got to behave this way, you've got to do that. Coming to Portugal offers you a chance to reset, to find out what really matters in life, you know. And these guys, like Joel and his family, right? They are so focused on family and community, and have got it so right, absolutely bang on. And I'm absolutely proud of them. I really am. And I would love to be able to sort of get closer to them and learn more, because they've got it right. In Europe, they have the right idea. And, you know, long may they keep it that way, because the rest of the world, from where I'm seeing, is going to shit. It really is. So, fair play to you guys in Portugal.
See, it was good. It was absolutely good. And we'll come back to, actually, what we can do is almost like a vote with Green Soul and ask Green Soul, Frank, if you want to still come here after we've all had said our piece here. Bravo, Gary from Victoria as well.
Sure.
And to weave in some themes of the night, I think the world context is like a Scotsman going home from the pub. And he kind of, I'll be very glad if he gets home and gets to bed without an argument with his wife and without hurting anybody or himself. That's the world, and
you know, that's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. He's going to get in a fight.
Now look,
now, and if he can't find someone to fight with, he'll start a fight with his reflection in a shop on the way home. And it'll be, you know, what are you looking at? And it'll get, you know, blood on the knuckles and all that.
You're looking at me, pal. Are you looking at me?
That's right. And his wife will welcome him in eventually, and she'll wash his knuckles down, and he'll go to sleep, and he'll think, "What happened to me last night? It must have been a good fight. I killed the other guy," etc. So that's the world's kind of context and prognosis as I see it. I hope it goes well, and I'm with you on that, Dave. You know, it's like it is the best of times, it has to be said, and the worst of times, as has been said, and you know, as I said before, the modelling for the world is not a good prognosis. However, how it might be in Portugal is how it might have been in the Second World War. And as someone said earlier on, you know, this the new empire is China, isn't it? We might be talking about America and Europe here, but really,
no.
I think China will be the major world-dominating empire, and everyone will just watch, just like they do.
They're going to overtake you, Dave, whether you like it or not.
No. I'm not. They're not overtaking me. I mean, we're talking about sort of, you know, are they going to have a larger economy than the U.S.? Maybe, but they're not dealing with just the U.S. If they want to be dominant, they have to win with ideas. Culture is what wins. And the Western culture.
It's not 1920 anymore. It's not Disney 1920 anymore.
They're not going to win a war.
Sorry, but
they're going to win a culture. They're going to win a culture. They're going to win a.
They're not going to win a war.
They've already won the war.
You want an example of sorry, Carl. You want an example
of how sorry, Carl. Carl's finished.
You said you wanted to go, but now you're throwing that one in 2 minutes to speak.
I say that with an hour before I want to go. Right. So, in World War, when we look at the history of World War II, it's you know, it's called World War II, isn't it? It's like as though the whole world was at war.
Yeah, but look at China. China wasn't doing anything. China was being
overrun by
Japan.
No, they were
exactly.
So sure.
Yeah,
we could have called it. We could have called it Major War II, and that's just it's a semantic thing. But interestingly, you come back to Europe and you see Portugal's role in World War II. Salazar very smartly remained neutral and was taking gold from Germany and the UK, from England, whatever.
Yeah, but you don't forget one thing. England could pay after the war to Portugal. Germany
Sure.
had to pay up front.
That's not. Yeah, but that's not, let me finish, and then you'll understand.
There's a large difference between how Portugal made its neutrality work. Because if you look carefully at the history of payments, for example, which is a good way to portray how a dictator balanced things out between the Allies and the Axis. If you look at that, you'll see that Allies, United States of America and England, for example, Base das Lajes, which is on the islands, on Madeira, first was conceded to the British, not to the Americans. The Americans that after asked the Portuguese if they could use that military base. But during World War II, that military base was for the British. Second thing, if you look at the economy, British after the war could pay his debt to Portugal. And he had time to do it. Meanwhile, during the war, the same thing didn't happen to Nazi Germany. They had to, if you want wolfranium, which were the thing that Portugal was selling both sides. When Portugal was selling wolfranium to the Germans had to pay up front, and then the Portuguese would send the wolfranium.
Right, it's in Azores. That's right.
It's totally different. It played differently. And even it was in sorry, Garvo. It was in if I'm not mistaken, back then the British ambassador said it is harder to work with Portugal as an ally than it is to work as a neutral country.
Back to you,
right.
Paul. Get it there now.
Can I finish my point now? So Portugal were a neutral country, and like some other people around the world, their lives were entirely untouched by the World War, and they carried on living their lives. Probably they were rural people, and they might have lived in neutral countries, and that might have gone on in Portugal. So I'm imagining in central Portugal, where you live, Gary, during World War II, the same sort of old men and women who bent over double picking cabbage, it would look exactly the same, wouldn't it? However long ago, 1942 and 2022, you could probably put them.
I can still see them now. They're here.
Right. You could run the pictures side by side.
Portugal was the European Casablanca. If you look at them,
in Estoril, in Estoril. I'm talking about in the countryside, with the lifestyle choice people want to make in Portugal. It may be the same again.
No, in the countryside, there was no electricity, there was no sanitation, there was nothing. Because back then, electricity.
I want you to let me finish my point before you ruin it. At least let me finish it and then kill it.
Yeah, Joel, shut the fuck up.
It's easy to kill something before it's even been made, right? So, and the only difference now is we Instagram it. Exactly. Thank you, Joseph. Good evening to you. So there's
there's your model, man. Here, if you want to come to Portugal, follow his model.
Exactly, and this is an untouched model, is what I'm proposing, and I say let the world go crazy because it's going to go its own way, and all of these godless, narcissistic psychopaths are going to do their thing, and they're going to be people who can take relative refuge in the rurality and civility of Portugal, and that will be my prognosis for this beautiful country.
God, I love you, Carl.
Can I just echo that one word? Civilized.
Yes, civilized. Isn't it just?
Very much.
Yeah.
And then there's Joel, but civilized.
Thank you, Obama.
It's all about the love.
Absolutely. So Green Soul.
Get Joseph on screen. I really do. I really wish he'd come up because he's an inspiration to me. He really is. He's got it so right. It's absolutely bang on. Yeah,
Joseph. Yeah, absolutely, mate. You are a role model to us old giffers, and it's a big responsibility. And he says, "Bless you." If I had a pension, I could ignore the rest of the world and come there. Well, Charles, you need to listen to our law of attraction programs and make that happen. And stop being so cynical. Frank,
you can make as many excuses as you like, Charles, but until you put your foot on that plane and get here, right, that's when life starts.
Yeah, so stop it, Charles. Right, Frank, you are our new Frank, and sorry to sort of put this on you. I'm hoping you found it in some way interesting and useful tonight. Have we put you off? Or are you even more determined to come to Portugal now?
Yes, I am. This is a small spark. So,
excellent. We talk about keeping your Portuguese pilot light lit, so hopefully that will go full on and warm the cockles of your heart at some point in the future. Frank and everybody tonight, thank you so much for being here. And the final thought to Joseph: it wouldn't work. I just keep breaking up, haha. And that's he's talking about his Wi-Fi in his beautiful rural idyll, and we completely forgive that, don't we? Because we know he's got it right, as you say,
absolutely.
Garbo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
To you again, all once. Thank you very much.
Ciao, ciao. Bye for now. See you next
everyone.
Friday.